Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, fabulous. It's Angela and I got some questions for you. What opens with Mama Harriet asking Kato, what you doing here? And that is the question, literally in the room that he was in, and figuratively as in this boarding house, on this Underground Railroad, and on this TV show. Sir, what are you doing here, Mr. Kato? And then what closes with the blind Daniel cobbling his way to the boarding house front door, greeted by Elizabeth, who's on her way out. Did you guess? Underground Season 2, Episode 9, entitled Citizen. If you did and you'd love to hear my review, please stick around, like, comment, and subscribe, and let's jump right on into it. So it's a circle. We start in the boarding house, and we end in the boarding house. And there's an ongoing conversation about fear this episode. And I just want to reiterate from the little recap previews that they had at the beginning. Slavery ain't just a sin, it's a state of war. Slavery ain't just a sin, it's a state of war. Slavery ain't just a sin, it's a state of war. Okay, all right. I was just, you know, I just need to say that for myself to hear it and understand, because that's important. Miss Ladybug, Miss Bella, oh my God, oh my gosh, what is she doing? Okay. So that zooming shot with Kato in the top center of the boarding house. I had seen a little meme of that on the internet. I didn't realize it was the opening scene of the show, but it was a funny meme, and it's a funny looking shot. He looks so weird, right? Okay, but we see Kato exploring the inner workings of the boarding house and being confronted by Mama Harriet, who gives him her original but not well-known nickname Minty, and her being a sweeper-upper as her occupation. And she told him, I done answered 2 of your questions. So you gonna answer my question? What you doing here? Get him, Mama Harriet. Should have killed him right then and there. I don't know. What is Kato doing? Okay, so then we have Kato reporting to an inpatient putrid cannon. She says something about 3 days, and throughout the episode we hear 2 days and 3 days. I was looking at some review or something, and they were saying that somebody different directed this episode, and I think someone totally different directed the episode before this, but it's not their regular director, and that they felt that this director was unsuccessful, that there were like some loops. I think there were supposed to be 3 loops or 3 different perspectives, and I promise you, the first time I saw it, I think I did notice one scene which seemed to be a repeat, and I'm like, is the TV messing up? Because it seemed to be the same scene from the same perspective with the same words. Now maybe it was from a different perspective, I'm not really sure, but the person in the review or whatever was saying that the director didn't quite hit the mark. And if it was supposed to be 3 loops from 3 different perspectives, I sure didn't get that. But I did, you know, watching it my second time through, I was, I guess, more sensitive to some of the loops. So in this scene, when Kato says he's talking to Putrid Cannon, and she's saying it's been 3 days. I'm like, another time I remember when Mama Harriet asked, you know, well, how long has Kato been here? And they're like 2 days. And then another time he's like, all I need is 2 days. So you know, we kind of see that going on. But anyway, Putrid Cannon is impatient. She not making her money. All of her cargo is chilling at the Underground Railroad stations, or not cargo, but all of her you know, whatever. And she want to know if he trying to escape. Oh, you trying to get on the Underground Railroad and head north? And he reaches for a knife, and 2 or 3 people pull a gun on him, and then he slits his wrist, and he says he's exactly where he wants to be. All right, Kato. It's like, yeah, all right, Kato. And then the next scene, we see Elizabeth bandaging Kato. Kato says, you didn't ask me why. And Elizabeth says, I know. Something unspeakable happened. No one cared. First you got sad, then you got mad, Then you wanted to destroy something. Then Cato says, with your husband's association, I'm paraphrasing y'all, but with your hubby's assassination, you know what black folks been knowing and can't unknow. And Liz says, fear. It's been constant, knowing that they do whatever they want to do. And Cato says that fear can't just sit. It's got to go one of two places. It's got two places to go. And Liz says, in or out. And I'm not sure which is better. And then Cato says, pull it in, then push it out, and become the monster that came to eat you. I guess that's Cato's philosophy. Yeah. Okay, so then we're at the boarding house. It's night in the boarding house attic. We see Cato sneaking out. It's a bunch of people sleeping on the floor. He seems to be following Liz. She goes to some type of encampment. I don't know what he sees, but it's like he sees something on the ground, and then he starts running, and Liz has set a fire, and then Cato finds Liz laid out in one of the buildings, or one of the tents or whatever. Okay, then the next scene we see Cato, and he's bathing in a river or a lake. I had some lentils and rice. I guess I still got it in my teeth. I'm like a cow. I got a secondary meal going on. Putrid plus two men come up to him. They're on horses. He comes out of the rivers, and out of the river or out of the water source, and Cato says, we got 2 days. And then he sees Liz again. Is this one of the loops that we were talking about? And she's looking at the abolitionist sketches. And that's why I thought it was a loop, because earlier when he was moving through the boarding house, through the back passages and stuff, we saw a shot of Liz looking at sketches, the abolitionist sketches that they used that they've used a few times during the season for identification purposes, to see if, like, the secret password, the secret ID cards. And Miss Liz is working the front desk. A man comes in and he says that he wants a room. Now, the look of his hand bothers Liz, and she reaches for a gun. He asks her, is there a problem? And she says, no, I just need your name for the records. And then he says, John Hawks, which is her dead husband's name. And then he insults her and threatens her. She slaps him and he leaves. Yep, that was a loop. And then we see her go, and she's talking to Georgia, and she mentions that Rosalie is going to be coming, and we had seen that again from Cato's perspective. When Liz tells Georgia what happens, she thinks that something should be done, and Georgia's like, girl, let it go. Those men are bullies, just like my brother or my half brother. And then Liz is like, he kidnapped me and he tied me to a tree. And Georgia is like, yeah, I understand, boo, but it could have been worse. You could have been black. You could have been dead. You could have been enslaved. You could have been beat. You could have been all of that. See, she don't say that. She just say it could have been worse. And I'm like, worse like what? So I just thought of some examples. And she says, I passed because a sense of safety transforms the spirit. And you think, Miss Liz, that you're invincible. We have to prioritize the safety of the freedom takers who are here. They call them cargo. I don't think that I like that term cargo, because to me it seems inhumane as well. Like we're talking about people here, not cargo. And I guess for the purpose of being able to talk publicly and talk privately about people, if you call them cargo, then no one knows that you're talking about people. But I'm on YouTube, so it ain't no secret. I'm talking about people who are seeking their freedom, who have run away from some bullshit that was bullshit. All right. So then the next scene, we see Liz following blood to a barely conscious Cato. So that's another loop again. Cato, you ain't even asked why. And then we hear whistling. So we do hear that same interaction in terms of, I know why. It's because something unspeakable happened, and you got to take that fear. Yeah, you got to take that anger and turn yourself into a monster. All of that. We hear all of that again. But this time we hear the whistling, and that's what I call Liz's whistling. I don't think we heard it the first time around. I think her anger, you know, sounds like I can't even mimic the sound because I didn't notice it the first time. I only noticed it the second time, and I might have missed it on the first loop, but I think that that's special to this loop to indicate that it's Liz's perspective. Although I think the shots were the same, but this is getting into some whole other stuff. Okay, so then the boarding house stalker is being watched and stalked by Liz. That's the guy who had tied her to the tree. And she didn't mention that he stabbed her in the back because he was talking about he was going to put SS on her back, but he just put a line on the back from what we could see. But we never saw her back again. And this is the first time I remember it being mentioned since it actually happened. Because in the next episode was Harriet Tubman speaking. But anyway, so we see the boarding house stalker being watched and stalked by Liz. Liz running away from the fire. So we think, oh, Liz done set the fire. Then she's paused by a child running toward the fire, yelling, "Pa! Pa!" And Liz is going toward the child, going toward the fire. And then we see her falling out. We guess it's from smoke inhalation. And then we see a shot of her on the wagon. So did Cato save her and the boy? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, then the next thing we have is Georgia and Liz in the boarding house. And they're looking toward the injured child. And Liz is saying he's his father's son. He's raised to believe that owning people is his birthright. And George is like, he could have been different, but we'll never know since your ass set his people on fire. And Liz is like, I'm not heartless. Safety transforms. Well, so does fear. Total and unforgiving fear is the only thing that'll end this. All I have to feel this fear in order for it to be changed. And Georgia is like, girl, you dangerous. You got to leave my house. If that's what you believe, you've got to go. Okay, so then we're in Georgia's space, and Mama Harriet and Georgia are talking. Georgia is telling Mama Harriet that one of Liz's kidnappers walked right in the front door. And Harriet is like, you know, the guy with the burned face, you know, what's up with him? I don't really trust him. He kind of slick, you know, at the mouth. He always got an answer. Keep an eye on him. And Georgia is like, you be careful out there alone. And Harriet is like, I ain't alone even when I'm by myself. I knew she was going to say that. I could have predicted that. The minute before she said it, I predicted it. Okay, so then we have a montage of Harriet. We see Harriet taking and leaving mail at the secret mail spot and putting cloth on her horse's hooves. We see Harriet removing wanted posters at an Ohio trading post. She's seeing the person put up a poster, and then we see her removing them. We see her grooming her hair by the campfire. We see Harriet waking up driving and getting out of the way of fat speeding horsemen with seconds to spare. We see Harriet in a church talking to God, and she's saying, William Steele and Douglas say that I need to tell my story more. But is that prideful? I want to deal in action, not in talk. You know, speaking does bring in money, and money does equal freedom. But I think it's best for me to spend my time doing me and not trying to be something that I ain't. I ain't never doubted you, but I ain't sure I'm meant to lead. And then we see Harriet. The next part of the montage is Harriet knocking on the door, and Noah answers. Okay, so then we have a montage of the Noah Lee crew heading north. They're barely welcomed in Georgia, and the woman is saying it's too much heat with y'all burning up the house and your branded face. And Noah is like, look, it looked like you need some money, so if you want the money, you better let us stay here. Then we see Cora shot and dragged away in South Carolina. Then we see a family chat while they're hiding in the bottom of a buggy going through North Carolina. James asks, how much longer till we ain't gonna run no more? And Rose is like, we gonna meet my friend Harriet and take the train the rest of the way. And then James is like, we gotta ride in the bottom of that too, the bottom of the train too. And then Noah is like, nah, you gonna like it, it's fast, and you get to watch the whole world, way bigger than that plantation. Blink and we'll be in Ohio. And then James is like, we living there in Ohio? And Rose is like, maybe Canada. It's as far north as you can go. St. Catharines with Boo. Remember Boo? You already got a friend there, and you free. You can go to school and learn to read. And James is like, Miss Susanna was teaching me to read. And Rose is like, it ain't the same. And James is like, I can't tell no difference with being free. And Noah is like, you can make your own choices. And really. And James is like, now I'm my own master. And Noah's like, yep, figure out what kind of man you want to be. And what kind of choices you're going to make. Because everyone got consequences. And then we see, oh my gosh, I'm getting stressed now because of the time. And then we're in Virginia, and Noah is chatting with Harriet. Noah is saying that, I hear you talk to God. You know, I ain't seen God. You know, and Harriet is like, well, what you do for work? He's like, you know, I'm a blacksmith. And she's like, well, you trust your senses. You know, like you like my daddy. He was a timber inspector. Same thing. You trust your senses. But you believed in freedom when you couldn't see it. That's what got you here. You just believed. And you got to find that feeling that impossible things be possible. Don't let the fear of fatherhood stop you from finding that belief. Then we have Noah and Lee. They putting sleeping James in the bed. And Noah, Rose is like, oh, I'm sorry. Noah like, don't lie your apology. Your selfishness caused me to feel the greatest fear that I've ever felt finding. I thought I was scared seeing you branded. Finding I was going to be a father had me even more scared. And Rose is like, we did this, Noah. And Noah is like, no, not we. You ain't give me no choice. You treated me like a slave, just like your father. And then we see Daniel, his daughter. Daniel, we're seeing Daniel, and not in the beginning, and we're getting more. We're getting more. Oh my God. And can I just say, I know I don't have a lot of time, but this whole Daniel thing, the tension, it was like I saw that scene 3 times, or parts of that scene 3 times, and every time I felt like a little teary. Like I didn't boo-hoo-hoo cry, but it was like I got a little tingly and a little sentimental feeling, you know? So Daniel's daughter is describing a chaotic scene to him. We hear yelling, we hear crying, we hear lashes, and you know, she's telling him what's going on. And then the daughter says to Daniel, they gonna sell us to Daniel, Daddy? They gonna split us up? And then Dan says, I ain't gonna let that happen. And the daughter is like, what you gonna do? And Dan is like, I don't know yet. And then we see Daniel with his wife in the cabin, and they're saying it's only 9 left. And Daniel is like, look, John Brown is still around. He's up and down this river causing trouble. That's why they're scared and selling us down the river. And the wife is like, you crossed that river and you asked the wrong person the wrong question. And Daniel's like, it's the only chance we got. And the wife is like, well, talk to Massa. You know, I'm scared they're going to do something to us and to our baby. And Daniel's like, they already done something. You think I'm blind and helpless? Freedom always has been the only answer. Freedom has always been the only answer. And she like, well, what can I do? He like, love me, pray for me, and be ready in case I fail. And then we see Daniel feeling his way onto and off of a wagon. He's with a group of people. When he gets off the wagon, the group goes one way and he goes another way, and literally bumps into a group of people where he heard a man say something about a girl in Ripley. Dan says, excuse me, would you be so kind as to point me in the direction of Ripley? And then we see him in Ripley, and he stopped. A man is asking for his papers, his freedom papers. He says, well, he's on loan to the university. And the man is like, you far away from the university. You ain't supposed to be here. Daniel was like, oh, I broke my bag. I'm looking for a cobbler or somebody who's good with leather. Then the next time we see him, he's at the cobbler's place. The cobbler ends up working on his bag, and he's trying to chat the cobbler up. He's telling the cobbler about, you know, what he was reading the other day. And the cobbler's like, I highly doubt you were reading, you blind black man. He didn't say that. But, you know, Daniel was like, oh, before my unfortunate accident, I was reading an article that Ripley, Ohio has 6 cobbler shops. Most towns only have 1 or maybe 2. And cobblers are useful for runaways. He don't say this all at once, but he's like dropping stuff, you know, along the way, trying to get some, you know, beat back from this man. He's trying. And cobblers are useful for runaways. Not that I'd ever run, he says. No response. The guy is like, here's your bag. And then Daniel is like, I need John Brown. The cobbler is like, who? And Daniel is like, look, I ain't got no time. I'm praying that you might be one of the sympathetic cobblers. And then the next time, oh my gosh, I'm even, you know, tearing up now. Because I don't know, it's like just the tension and just, it's just, I mean, the types of things that we have and that we continue to experience is, it's really intense. It's really stressful. It's really, amazing and inspirational and just wow. And then we see Liz on her way out. You know, she's heading down the stairs of the boarding house, and she's like, oh, can I help you, sir? And then it's a shot of Daniel. You know, Daniel has made his way to the boarding house. We don't know, you know. So that's hopeful and that's exciting. We don't know about how he's going to get his family, and also that their child is in the big house. So that's all I got. I think that Daniel scene was like the highlight for me. That whole Daniel thing, the whole time I was just really feeling it. And unlike some people were like, when is Daniel going to get integrated in with everybody else? When is he going to connect with the Macon 7? I didn't necessarily feel any like, oh my gosh, how does he connect to everybody? Because I feel like we're all connected. You know, we've all been, you know, have a history and a legacy of being on one side or the other or both of the enslavement of Africans and the exploitation of Africans and the ongoing enslavement of Africans in this country. And so, you know, I don't think we have to know each other literally to be connected. So I wasn't like, oh my gosh, so happy that, you know, he showed up at the boarding house. But it did represent when it happened. It was like, oh my gosh, like he made it. And it just seemed like the odds were so against him. Dang, okay. I gotta hurry up and watch Greenleaf. Is it Greenleaf and Shots Fired, y'all? I got 2 more things to watch before I can be free to, you know, I got all this other stuff I need to watch that I'm not reviewing. So, oh Lord. Okay, how did you like the episode? And we only have 1 episode left. This is something. I really like this show. Bella is just relaxing here. Okay, thank you for watching. Liking, commenting, subscribing. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Bye, baby.